Happy Friday, America. Welcome to the latest edition of Just the News, No Noise. I'm your host, John Solomon, reporting to you as always from Washington, D.C. and the wiredtofishcoffee.com studios. By the way, get this cool. This is my favorite new coffee mug. I drink my, look at that, Wired to Fish right on it. It's the perfect way to drink coffee on a Saturday morning. All right, if you go to Wired, the number 2fishcoffee.com, and use the promo code JustNews, you get 10% off, including on that mug, on the Just the News tumbler, the John Solomon autograph book, plus coffee package. If you want to try it, there's a couple of those left, only a few left, so go get those if you want one of those. And also, you'll be saying thanks to one of our great sponsors who makes this show possible every day. Wiredtofishcoffee.com, promo code JustNews. All right, it's Friday, and a lot of people say, are we getting anything really done in Washington? I know President Trump's getting things done, executive orders, but what's happening behind the scenes? I just want to bring you up to speed on a couple of things that aren't getting any talked about, but they could be really, really significant. Earlier this week, Congress passed, with almost no fanfare, a bill that would suspend Homeland Security Department funding to college campuses that do business with Chinese interests that are tied to the Chinese military or the Chinese intelligence. And you're thinking, well, how in God's name could we let college campuses do that? Well, it actually flourished under the Biden administration, particularly after President Joe Biden suspended the FBI's China Initiative, which was the FBI's counterintelligence operation trying to root out spies that are embedded all across our academia and college campuses. But this passed, it's going to probably be made into law, might end up in the big, beautiful bill that President Trump talks about, the reconciliation bill later this summer. But that's just one little thing that's happening on a daily basis. President Trump today had some news to make too. He said, I'm going to go negotiate with China. I'll knock my tariffs down to 80%. By the way, that's still a really stiff tariff, just to see if they want to show some goodwill. That's an important deal. President Trump also got a ceasefire with the Houthis in Yemen, only for American ships passing through and American troops. Didn't worry about the other countries. That's called America First. We're going to talk about that with our first guest of the evening, who's joining us from the White House. But before we do that, I want to turn to my amazing co-host, Amanda Head, because Amanda, there is a lot of stuff going on. We're so mesmerized by the big headlines, the trade deal, but there's a lot of other things that are just common sense, tightening up the insanity in Washington, the marble asylum in Washington. We barely get a chance to talk about them, but real progress is being made.
Yeah, it's not the sexiest stuff, but sometimes it can be the most impactful, and certainly down the line when, if it gets enacted, if it actually goes into that big, beautiful bill, or however many bills it ends up being. But some more unsettling air travel news on this Friday, unfortunately. For the second time in a week, radar systems at Newark Liberty International Airport, one of the busiest airports in the nation, went completely dark, leaving air traffic controllers scrambling and, of course, pilots relying on backup communication to land safely. ABC News obtained audio of controllers warning FedEx pilots that their radar screens had gone completely blank, urging them to contact company leadership to put pressure on federal authorities to fix the issue. Now, you didn't think that George Santos was going away anytime soon, did you? Former Congressman George Santos is formally requesting clemency or a commutation from President Donald Trump, arguing that his 7-year prison sentence is politically motivated and disproportionate for a first-time nonviolent offense. In an interview with British journalist Piers Morgan, Santos said 7 years and 3 months in prison for a first-time offender over campaign matters just screams over the top. I'll take a commutation, clemency, whatever the president is willing to give me. Now, Santos plans to file official paperwork with the Trump White House ahead of his July surrender date. And in yet another strange example of progressive priorities reshaping public spaces, New York City has welcomed a new statue to Times Square while continuing to remove monuments for key American historical figures like Thomas Jefferson and Theodore Roosevelt. The latest installation is a 12-foot bronze figure of a plus-sized black woman named Grounded in the Stars. It's intended to disrupt traditional ideas of what a heroic or triumphant figure looks like, according to its creator. And, for conservatives, I think the issue isn't about opposing new art, but about questioning why celebrated historical figures who shaped American democracy are being systematically removed, while new works like this, often steeped in ideology, take their place, John.
It's not even a real person. I mean, listen, if you're going to do it, find me a real person.
A real
There's
hero.
plenty of amazing black women that deserve to be honored. Make one of those, but oh my God, this is just academia. Just throw it out. I'm ashamed I went to college after seeing all this craziness.
I know. Isn't it strange how things have changed? Well, all right, everybody. So a little earlier, as John teased, we got the chance to interview Kush Desai, Deputy White House Press Secretary. Take a look. Joining us now, a familiar face that I see often over at the White House, is Deputy White House Press Secretary Kush Desai. Kush, great to see you.
Thanks for having me on. Great to see you as well.
All right, big news yesterday morning out of the White House. I want to start with that trade deal, something that has been percolating for quite a while. President Trump actually in that press conference even talked about how in his first term it was something that he examined and wanted to improve for Americans, increase that reciprocity and make America fair again, or make it fair again for America when it comes to trade. Then the Pope announcement and that kind of sucked all the air out of the media room. But this is truly important. A lot of other deals that are going to come down the pike afterwards, right?
That's correct. I think yesterday we saw the first of many deals to come for the American people. President Trump, I think, once again proved the naysayers wrong. When you look at a trade deal of this magnitude, usually it takes years to craft, years of negotiation and bargaining and whatnot. And Americans are truly blessed because we have the negotiator, the deal maker in chief, President Trump, the guy who very literally wrote the art of the deal, strike a deal to expand our trade relations with the United Kingdom. And that means billions and more in market opportunities for American farmers and ranchers and other producers. And it means finally getting a semblance of reciprocal and fair trade for the American people.
Yeah, and it's funny, Brexit occurred in 2016, but it took Donald Trump and his own getting involved to get a deal. Everybody thought, oh, we'll get a trade deal, no problem after Brexit, but Donald Trump actually delivers it, unlike the Biden administration, which couldn't. Where else do we think we'll see some progress in the next few weeks? Could we see trade deals when the president's on the Middle East peace trip next week, which is such a big moment?
Sure. Well, I don't want to get at the president, but I think definitely president's going over to visit our key allies in the Middle East, and expanding economic ties is definitely a very big part of that. I mean, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, these are our major, Qatar, these are some of our major economic and kind of political allies in the region. And definitely, I think we'll see an expansion of investments. The Saudis have already committed to investing hundreds of billions of dollars under this president. I think the Emiratis have as well. So I think we're going to see a deepening of ties, not just on the economic sense, but also in the political and foreign policy sense, as we try to kind of bring back the historic peace that the Middle East saw under President Trump's first term.
Yeah.
A lot of anticipation swirling around an expansion of the Abraham Accords, and Caroline Leavitt this morning at the press conference seemed to pointedly augur something like that. President Trump did not get a ton of credit from his naysayers the first time around. If he is able to expand those Abraham Accords into 1, 2, 3 more nations, do you think that he will get credit as a peacekeeper?
Well, I mean, if the mainstream media has their way and if the Democrats have their way, I mean, I guess they're one and the same, but no, you won't get his credit. But the American people, I think, will once again realize that, this is the peace president. I mean, again, in his first term, the world was at a historic, from the Middle East, across Europe and Asia, the world was at peace. And then Joe Biden came in. It took a matter of just a few months or a year before war broke out between Russia and the Ukraine, the likes of which we haven't seen, thousands of people dying on just a regular basis, 2 countries kind of, their economy is getting hollowed out and destroyed. And then we saw, of course, after October 7th, where the Middle East once again blew up into flames. And so I think this president's committed to being, again, the peacemaker here. And I think we're seeing lots of positive results both in Ukraine and across the Middle East. And so obviously, as I said, the media won't give him credit for that. But again, I think the American people know who President Trump is, and they count on him to be the peacemaker. And I think that's exactly what he's going to do.
Yeah. Earlier, just in the last few hours, the president maybe will strike a deal for the Houthis to stop bombing American ships. I think this was a really important moment because the president just took care of American ships, put America first. By the way, America was the only one willing to bomb the Houthis for a long time. Was that an intentional message to the rest of the world that sometimes if you don't want to join us in the military campaigns, if we get a peace deal, we'll just take care of it ourselves?
That's exactly right. I mean, this is the president that leads by example, and he leads by force, and he knows when to use American strength and American power to secure deals for peace, and for not just for us, but for the world. And so, absolutely, I think, again, this is a stunning example of the president's leadership on the world stage, delivering for the American people.
Yeah. Big deal.
Kush, I want to shift down to our southern border. The El Salvadorian illegal alien who was domiciled in Delaware. I know that it doesn't quite have the moxie of a Delaware man that the mainstream media likes to label him, but the truth is that he is there where he came from, and Secretary Kristi Noem recently, I think within the last 24 hours or so, said he's not coming back. I've also noticed that over on mainstream media, there hasn't been a lot more talk and rabble-rousing around it. Is it because we really are finding out more and more, it seems like weekly, about another issue in his past, another instance of committing more crimes against his wife, children, domestically?
Yeah, it was the whole saga around the first Maryland man, I think, was really illustrative of how Democrats are so eager, just driven by their Trump derangement syndrome, them and the media, to just attack President Trump at every occasion that they find, without even waiting for the facts to come in. And really, I mean, when you remember, Chris Van Hollen flew down 2,000 miles away from the state he represents in the Senate to go have margaritas with a MS-13 terrorist who beat his wife. And the more and more evidence that came out, the more and more embarrassing that whole, the Democrats' decision to just own and prioritize the well-being of an illegal immigrant over American citizen, more and more embarrassing that became. And I think the same thing with this new Delaware man, where I think Democrats are starting to realize that, hey, maybe the American people don't want us to be the party of illegal aliens who are criminals and terrorists and are terrorizing our communities and our constituents. So it's a little bit of some rare introspection from Democrats in the media. But again, I wouldn't give them too much credit. I'm sure the next Delaware man or Maryland man or Virginia man or wherever the next one pops up, they'll be right there defending him over everyday American citizens.
Yeah, no doubt. The president yesterday called for a significant, unconditional, no strings attached ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine. Can you give us an update? Are you seeing any progress with Ukraine and Russia since that very dramatic ask of the president?
Sure. I mean, I think we saw with the signing of that landmark minerals deal with Ukraine that the president is focused on delivering peace for the world here. And I think I don't have specifics on Ukraine and Russia, but again, I think we're seeing, we're closer to peace in the past, I guess, 100 and change days between Russia and Ukraine than we saw at any point during the last 3 years of the Biden administration. And the president and his all-star team of negotiators, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff. I mean, the whole team is working day and night really to secure peace here. That's what the president wants. He wants the bloodshed end, and that's what the war has largely been. It's just been back and forth on these empty fields where people are just getting slaughtered, thousands regularly every day for no reason.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Kush, I want to stay on energy for a moment, a different kind, the oily kind, the gas kind. When it comes to gas, I saw recently, I think about 10 cents down per gallon is what Americans are seeing at the pump right now. You contrast that with a state like California that might be abolishing 2 refineries, and gasoline in that state as a result of that through the gas tax could go up 60, 70 cents per gallon. You take the country as a whole, where gas is going down, and California, where gas could be going up, that's gonna create a very stark comparison for the American people going into midterms and the general election in 2028.
Yeah.
That's absolutely right. And the thing is that energy prices go so much further than just what everyday people pay at the gas pump. When you think about trucking, for instance, I mean, everything that you get at a grocery store or at a supermarket or a retail store, it gets to you on a truck. And those trucks are predominantly powered by diesel fuel. And diesel prices are also down just as much as gasoline. And the operating expenses for a trucker, 25% or so, is roughly the cost is roughly just the cost of fuel. And so when the president has unleashed American energy and driven energy costs down, I mean, those savings cascade across the economy. The truckers are seeing it. When you look at new frontier technologies like AI, I mean, AI is what it really is it's energy plus computer chips. And when you drive down the price of energy, it has, as I said, a cascading effect throughout the economy. And I think we're going to see the benefits of that go beyond just the gas pump. So when California decides to, kind of cave into environmentalists and radicals and such over the American people, again, it's not just Californians paying more at the gas pump. It's also Californians who are going to be missing out on AI technologies, on manufacturing, on all the other things that this administration is keen on unleashing for the American people. So it's really just a foolish decision on so many different, and it's not just holding California back, it's frankly holding the country back.
Yeah, it's a great point. There's going to be states that, because of their policy, aren't going to participate in the next generation of technology or economic opportunity. It's so silly to watch. I want to ask just real quickly about Congress. I know President talks daily to the leadership, and there's great synergy. They're working, they're communicating, they're building towards that big, beautiful bill. How does the White House feel about where we are, and where do we still need to get? What are some of the big areas that we got to get over to get a really important deal in place?
Sure. Look, I mean, the big, beautiful bill is just that. It's beautiful, but it's also very big. And so certainly we saw during the passage of the continuing resolution that kept our government open, the passage of common sense legislation like Lake and Riley. This administration knows how to work with Congress to get things done for the American people. And I think we're here, again, it's a big bill. There's a lot of, hundreds of pages of arcane text that the American people are, it's hard for a regular person to read it and kind of walk away with it making sense. But there's a lot of small things in there that have to be ironed out. A lot of questions about taxes, a lot of questions about a lot of our spending and other programs. But the fact of the matter is that we are intent on delivering for the American people. We want Congress to deliver onto President Trump's desk for him to sign the biggest tax cut in American history, to deliver tax relief for working and middle class Americans, to deliver the sort of deductions that our companies, our small businesses, our medium-sized businesses need to invest in the equipment and the production to reshore manufacturing back to the United States. And so we are working with Congress day and night to kind of iron out those smaller details, but making sure that those big picture agenda items like full expensing of investments in the United States, of no tax on tip, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, that we get the job done to ensure that the American people get the tax break they deserve, which is the largest tax break in American history.
Yeah, so important.
Kush, before we let you go, I am hearing reports of various companies here in the United States who produce domestically. One reportedly is Hallmark, who produces a majority of their goods in Kansas. These companies that are inflating their prices and blaming it on tariffs. Again, made here, so they are not subject to tariffs. Are you guys hearing anything about companies doing this and doing anything about it?
Here's the thing. None of these companies, when they had to raise prices because of Joe Biden's runaway inflation, they avoided ever blaming Joe Biden for something he totally needlessly did. But the reality is that, tariffs are one part of the economic agenda that we're enacting here. We're also trying to cut taxes, as I mentioned, cutting hundreds of billions of dollars worth of regulations. We're unleashing American energy to lower energy costs. So we're doing this full suite of economic policies to deliver price relief for the American people. And we saw 2 inflation reports in March that showed no monthly inflation for everyday Americans. Yeah. And so we are keeping track of that. And I think, again, when the full suite of our economic policies kick in, I think you'll see a lot of companies doing the exact opposite. They'll be lowering prices and giving even more relief to the American people.
Yeah, and the American people are going to be very glad for it after the last 4 years under Bidenomics.
Yeah, starting to feel it.
Absolutely. Kush Desai, thank you so much for joining us. We'll catch you again soon.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great to have you on. That was fun.
All right, everybody, we'll be right back.
Hey, folks, if you're a homeowner, you need to listen to this. When's the last time you checked on your home title? I know the answer. That's the legal proof, of course, that you own your house. If you're like me, the answer is never. The problem is, in today's AI and cyber world, scammers are stealing home titles and your equity is the target. Here's how it works. Criminals forge your signature on one document, use a fake notary stamp, pay a small fee with your county, and boom, your home title has been transferred out of your name. That's not a good situation. Then they take out loans using your equity or even sell your property, and you're not even going to know about it until you get a collection or foreclosure notice. That's why you need to stop what you're doing and find out today if you're already a victim. Use the promo code JTN at HometitleLock.com to make sure your title is still in your name. You also get a free title history report plus a free 14-day trial of their $1 million triple lock protection. That's 24/7 monitoring of your title, urgent alerts to any changes, and if fraud should happen, they'll spend up to $1 million to fix it. Go to HometitleLock.com right now and use the promo code JTN. That's HometitleLock.com, promo code JTN.
Welcome Welcome back, everybody, to Just the News and No Noise. California Governor Gavin Newsome rolled out a new fact-check website this week aimed at so-called right-wing misinformation, even as a majority of voters in his own state say that he is more interested in running for president than actually governing and, running the state of California. Now, the site was funded and operated by Newsome's political machine. It's billed as a rapid response tool to defend California's failing policies and attack President Donald Trump, but critics see it as transparent and a transparent attempt to boost his national profile ahead of what could likely be a 2028 presidential run. So joining us now is the host of Politics in Perspective, Tom Del Beccaro. Tom, great to see you.
Great to see you both. Glad to be talking about Gavin Newsom and his plans to ruin the country.
Oh, man, oh, man. I feel like if you have to have a rapid response website for your own policies, that kind of seems like a self-own.
Yeah, but if the state isn't paying for this, then by definition, why is he doing this? Look, if you talk to his high school mates, they said he's always been sort of standoffish, didn't have a lot of close friends, and has always wanted to be president. And then he got involved with the Gettys. It's a good group to get involved with. They have a fair amount of money. And the Pelosi's and Browns pushed him along. And now we're to this point, but his policies are really dangerous.
Yeah. And also, when he's on the national stage, he never seems to perform well. I mean, I think of the Hannity debate. Now, he knew it was kind of a juice debate, but he couldn't communicate very well when he's under even the slightest bit of stress. In California, he gets a pass, but under little stress, he really seems to crumble a little bit. Does he have what it takes to be on the national stage?
John, I'm so glad you said that, because after that debate with DeSantis, there were so many people saying how glib and good he was. But he disappeared after that.
Yep.
And for the exact reason you said it, he was very surly. That happened to be his first extended exposure to the entire country. He was very surly. He didn't answer questions. When you do a national debate, your first job is to be liked. Your second job is to answer questions. Yeah. Your third job is to answer good questions, give good answers. Yeah. He didn't do any of that. He just attacked and he disappeared. So I agree with you. Thank you for being among the few that really gave a good analysis on his performance.
Yeah, Tom, you look at the whole landscape of issues in California, and I saw some comments recently from Selling Sunset Star, a really popular real estate reality show. Jason Oppenheim, who has a huge social media following, he's never come out as conservative or liberal or whatever. He leans liberal, it seems, but he came out and put a video talking about how he regretted voting for Gavin Newsom and for Karen Bass for mayor. When you have people like that who are that visible within the realty world, what does that say to the rest of the country?
Yeah, absolutely. If you look at every single metric that matters, U.S. News and World Report, hardly a right-wing organization, says California's last in affordability. Well, of course, that's housing. Last in opportunity, that's jobs. 8th most dangerous state in the country. That's quality of life. 48th in education, another report. I don't know what else you should judge a governor by than those specific issues. And he has been a big government guy all the way down the line. And worse, he's not willing to deviate. He talks a show, like on the issue of whether men should be in women's sports, but he doesn't actually do anything relating to that. Now, look, there's probably going to be 20 or 30 Democrats running for president. He is popular enough in this state, more popular than Harris. So if he runs, 20 people, you can do the math. You probably only need 15% in a primary to win. He does have a shot to be the nominee, and he does have a good political team. So you have to take him seriously.
Yeah, that's a great point. All right, I want to dive into the California legislature. So there was a bill working its way through the legislature that would make it a felony to engage in child prostitution. I can't think of anyone, common sense, anywhere in the world that would think it's a bad idea. But Democrats pulled it from the floor. Then there was a national outrage, rightfully so. And then Democrats had to sheepishly put it back on the docket. What does this say about our Democratic Party of California?
Yeah, so when I was chairman 14 years ago, they had a similar bill which judged pornography by the number of pieces you held, right? If you had more than so many, then it was a felony. Well, you know what they counted as one? Back then, a CD disc, which could have tens of thousands on it. And we exposed that and they pulled it. The bad truth about California Democrats is that Sacramento is run by LA Basin and San Francisco, which are very far left and way far left, more left than Gavin Newsom. In fact, Nancy Pelosi is moderate in San Francisco among Democrats. So they put these bills out thinking no one is watching, and often they aren't. But on these particular issues, a good enough crowd came to the fore and exposed it, but that tells you what the legislature's like.
Yeah.
Well, and even in the gas arena, I mean, if we're talking about rankings, there are more than half of the states in this country, I believe it was 26 states, as of May 5th, had gas prices under $3. And then California, their gas average is $4.83. So if he doesn't have the goods on gas, he doesn't have the goods on real estate, he doesn't have the goods on the social policies, what is going to appeal to Democrats in states like Michigan or Pennsylvania that are very, very important to actually win the White House?
Good point.
You make a good point. And often in Democrat politics, it's not how you did, it's what you say. Are you fighting for the right issues? So think about Gavin Newsom. He put himself in the forefront saying, I'm fighting for particular issues, the climate, universal health care, gay rights issues. So that makes him a warrior, but he doesn't deliver on the goods. But think of where this Democrat Party is. Who among us, the three of us, had AOC as the most prominent Democrat in May of 2025? Not only did I not guess the right Pope, I didn't have AOC either.
Yeah, those are two good ones. I'd give you a pass on that. Real quickly, just because I think it's a signature for Newsom. Newsom started this whole let's get rid of gas cars, and then Biden tried to extend that across the country. The House voted against it this week, but you know what the most amazing thing was? 35 Democrats joined Republicans in doing it. It's not even popular in his own party. How does he run with that sort of baggage?
Yeah, you're right. He's got lots of baggage, but again, he's fighting for the right thing. Look for him to say that is a good ideal, but we need to push the date back.
That's right.
It's an aspiration, because that's the kind of person he is. Look, California doesn't even have the infrastructure to handle the number of cars it has now, let alone this goal that he has. Maybe he'll pick Pete Buttigieg as transportation secretary again, and they can get up to 4 electric stations around the country.
But
double their output.
Yeah, unbelievable.
That's
Politics
funny.
in Perspective host Tom Del Picaro. Thank you so much for being here
great
tonight.
job,
We'll
John.
catch up with you soon.
All right, take care.
All right,
fun.
everybody. Coming up, Waymo's robo-taxis are about to double. Big changes coming to Arizona's streets. That's next.
Welcome back, America. Earlier this week, Congressman Randy Weber and I were taking a stroll down our favorite television shows of the 60s and 70s. And Amanda was like, oh, I saw those on Netflix like 30 years later, maybe. I know, I'm old. But there was one of my favorites growing up. I have to admit, I was a sucker for the Jetsons. And I've always wondered when some of those things that the Jetsons were doing in the 60s in the cartoon might come to America. One of those may be not that far off. How about a robotic-driven taxi? Well, joining me now, the Director of Policy for NetChoice, our good friend, Patrick Hedger. Patrick, good to have you on the show.
Hey, thank you for having me.
All right, so Waymo's got these robo-taxis. They're real, right? They're already starting to produce. They're starting to double them. Tell us what happens. Where do these get deployed and what they're like when you were driving in one, or riding in one, I should say.
Yeah. So the Jetsons are here to a certain extent. They don't fly just yet, but in some cities particularly out west with San Francisco and Phoenix, you can take one today. And I've had the privilege of actually riding in a Waymo taxi actually a couple of times now. And look, it does feel weird for the first few seconds. But by the time the ride is over, you realize this is a really nice option to have out there. And look, there are drawbacks that come with any human driver, particularly human drivers that you may not necessarily know in a taxi. But the advantage of these driverless vehicles, which are coming to cities like Washington, D.C. Next year, is that humans unfortunately still drive drunk. They drive distracted. They drive tired. These machines, these robots essentially don't have that problem. And the data we're seeing is really promising to the point where if you extrapolate it out over the entire population of the United States, we're talking about saving anywhere from 35 to 40,000 lives per year. And I just think that is such a great vision for the future.
Yeah. And honestly, I mean, not having to get into an Uber that smells like the Uber driver's old food or the rancid thing hanging from their rearview mirror, I'm totally on board with this. I want to ask you though, because I'm a millennial, so I'm from that generation that we're kind of straddling the fence between analog and digital. Do you find that people are trusting of this? I mean, I kind of feel like I would trust, contrary to John, I would trust a computer more than I would trust a human. Do you find that most humans out there are willing to put their lives in the hands of effectively a big computer?
Yeah, I think we're seeing a similar rate of adoption than what we saw with Uber and Lyft, right? I mean, if you think about Uber and Lyft, and I told you before those things ever launched that, hey, you're going to get in the car of a stranger. It's not a licensed taxi or anything like that. It's just a stranger's car that found you on an app. That sounds crazy. But now there are signs in all of the major airports of where to go find your Uber and Lyft. And so I think the proof is really in the pudding. Once people get exposed to the technology, humans are very adaptable, and I think they're going to like it. And as again, having ridden in one myself, you don't have a lot of some of the drawbacks that you do get with whether you're in a taxi or you're in a rideshare car. So I think we're already starting to see pretty strong growth numbers in the cities where this technology is deployed, but really the only way people are going to get comfortable is by being exposed to it.
Yeah. So I have a really important question. Can you control the radio when you're in this car?
Oh, good question.
Yeah,
You
'cause-
can. Yeah, that's actually one of the best features.
That's awesome.
They have a lot of different options and channels that you can choose from. And what's also exciting too is to see how the different companies that are entering this space are going to compete and what kind of offerings they're going to provide to attract consumers in terms of those features. You know, maybe being able to charge your phone or Wi-Fi in the vehicle.
Sure.
It's pretty exciting.
When it comes to their energy source, are they all electric? Are they some hybrid, some gasoline? And are they of a particular manufacturer, or is it across the board?
Yeah, so right now what we're seeing is they are predominantly electric, and one of the downsides of electric vehicles is that nobody wants to sit out there and with it while it's charging for a long time. And though charging times are improving for electric cars, the nice thing about driverless vehicles is that it can drive itself to a charger and then another vehicle can deploy, and so you don't really have that same problem of a lag time with actually recharging the vehicle, and that's going to be extrapolated out to the benefits of potentially with the availability of driverless vehicles as they become more ubiquitous in certain communities. You may not need to own a car ever again because there's just going to be such an availability of cars that are there on demand. You don't have to have a ride or be going in a direction that the Uber driver or the taxi driver wants to go. The car will go where you want it to go. And so I think there's a lot of different economic efficiencies that we'll see if this technology becomes widely adopted.
God, the future is great. My car will go charge itself. Maybe my kid will even wash his dishes one day on his own automatically. We get that fixed.
Guarantee that. There are
Yeah,
always
no, that's
limitations
going to be
to
a tough one.
technology.
All right, well, we got one of the greatest technology policy experts we have in this country. I want to ask you a little bit about this long-running case, United States versus Google. It's getting close. This big landmark antitrust case. Tell us where we are and how big a moment this could be for the technology industry at large.
Yeah, so overall, I think we're still sort of at the early stages. All of this is going to get appealed, so we're years away from knowing exactly where this comes down. But as far as the initial phase goes, we're sort of at the sentencing phase of the initial part of this. And unfortunately, what we are seeing is that the DOJ is really reaching for a long prison sentence for what is effectively a traffic violation. And so, and I'm really concerned because Google is a leader in some of the technologies that we really need here in the United States. We were just talking about Waymo. Waymo is a subsidiary of Google, and Waymo is nothing if not a robotics company. And if there's anywhere that China is leading the United States in terms of tech policy and technology in general, it's robotics and robotics deployment. So I really worry about going too hard after Google and breaking off parts of the company that are unrelated to the core of the case, which is unfortunately what we're seeing from the Department of Justice.
Yeah, so very important.
Patrick, before we let you go, there are some 1,000 bills that have passed through Congress that have something to do with AI technology. This is, I mean, it is upon us whether you like it or not. Right. What are some of the most important safeguards that Congress can enact?
Yeah, so the first thing what we need to see is that Congress needs to set a framework that preempts what we're seeing in the states, because the 1,000 bills that we've seen introduced at the state level, that's going to be impossible to comply with, right? And AI is fundamentally, it's built on the back of the internet. It's fundamentally an interstate service, and trying to comply with a patchwork of 50 different states with maybe a couple different laws each just doesn't make any sense. But some clear things Congress can do to make AI investment a lot more fruitful is pass clear data privacy and security regulations. That's something that was sorely needed in the previous sort of tech space. But as we move into AI, AI is fundamentally fueled by data, and companies need some certainty in terms of what their expectations are in terms of data processing and data security, and that will help move investment down the road. So that's something Congress can do right away.
Yeah, so important. Patrick Hedger, as always, thank you for giving us an incredible glimpse of the future and a whole dose of common sense in the middle. I really appreciate it. Good to have you on today, my friend.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah, all right, folks. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, a great conversation about health with one of our great partners here at Native Path right after these messages. Hey, folks, you've been with me at all over the last 6 months or so. You are probably familiar with the fact that I have a brand new favorite coffee, Wire to Fish coffee. As you know, I love them not only for their delicious, smooth coffee, which I drink every morning, but more importantly, for their amazing commitment to give back. Wire to Fish coffee gives back 25% of its profits. That's right, 25% to conservation, to clean water, and things like missions and evangelical outreach, things I care about as a Christian outdoorsman. From river cleanups and initiatives for fish habitat to programs that give people in slums clean water and spread the word about Jesus, Wire to Fish coffee is in it to make the world a better place. So you can have a cup of coffee and do good with every drink you take. And they've added to their offering. Now, Wire to Fish coffee is available in medium roast decaf, and their much-loved brew is now available in 2-pound and 5-pound inflation buster bags for avid coffee lovers like me. I'm excited to tell you that Wire to Fish coffee has a special offer for the Just the News audience. For a limited time only, they're offering their best-selling medium roast in the new 2-pound bag size at a cost-crunching $21.99 a bag. And when combined with the discount code JustNews, which gets you another 10% off, you get down below $20. That is a great bargain. Head over to wiredtofishcoffee.com. That's wired, the number 2, fishcoffee.com today, and take advantage of this exclusive offer. Order today and make this year one where you align your coffee with your values. Welcome back, folks. It's time for our weekly Just the News health update brought to you by our friends at Native Path. Joining us now, the co-founder and chief culture officer at Native Path, our good friend, Dr. Chad Walding. Dr. Chad, good to have you back on.
Hey, John, good to be here. Thank you for having me.
We love these conversations. I think the more we talk about it, the more we inspire ourselves to get healthy. I think that's what's so fun about it. All right, I've been fascinated because now when I look at anything, I want to know, are any of those food dyes in it? I've been looking at my cereals lately, looking at everything. Food dyes are almost everywhere, and they seem to be introduced really early to children in things like Fruit Loops and Lucky Charms. Tell us a little bit about the food dye industry, what we've learned, and why we still left them in our food all this time.
Well, this is another area where a lot of people are having conversations about this, right? These dyes in our food, and we're hearing how, RFK is getting red dye number 3 banned. That to me is an issue, right? These dyes, these chemicals, they're fairly new. They're extremely new, actually, to the human food supply. And we're going to find them in things like candy corn and baked goods and cakes and cupcakes, the beverages, the strawberry flavored milks and things like that, the icings, when kids have birthdays and things like that. It gets me very concerned, right? In these chemicals are things that can cause us to get sick, right? This red dye number 3 in particular, they've done studies on mice. It's been shown to increase the rates of cancer. It's been shown to increase the rates of all kinds of behavioral issues. We're really concerned, I believe, that this is causing an increase in cancer in our children. We have to really look at what's going on. The incidence of early onset cancers have increased by 79% in recent years. That's from 1990 to 2019. Like, why is that? Like,
That's huge.
We can't ignore that something's going on in our environment, particularly our food environment, that is causing this. And nearly 1 in 2 Americans are predicted to get cancers in their lifetime. People have a 41.6% chance. Everyone listening here probably knows someone or has someone in their family that is impacted by cancer, right? And why does this happen? What is going on? What's causing this? I suspect that the red dye number 3, the chemicals in our food, is one of many things that is causing, not only our cancers, but our heart disease, our diabetes. We've talked about autism before. Why is all this happening, right? To me, we're moving further and further and further away from the way that we're designed to eat, from the way that our great-great-great-grandparents eat. These metabolic issues are extremely new to the human species. They're not things our great-great-grandparents were dealing with. They were dealing with infectious diseases, right? And we learned that what causes a lot of that is, we can fix a lot of that with hand washing and good whole food nutrition. So I think we've really missed the mark on the way we've been producing a lot of the food. Food has become a business. The food industry hires food scientists to make foods palatable and tasty, and to make it such that our children can't just have a little bit. They want more and more and more. And from an early age, we get them addicted to sugar. We give them these mascots on cereal boxes and things like that. And that sets someone up for obesity for a lifetime, for diabetes for a lifetime, for metabolic health issues for a lifetime. So we really want to encourage parents to give their children whole, real food nutrition as best as possible, meaning the things that your great-great-parents would recognize as food, going back to the basics, getting them whole, real protein, good quality carbohydrates, not refined carbohydrates, things like berries and sweet potatoes and fruit, as opposed to fruit roll-ups and Tony the Tiger and things like that. We want to get back to the basics. This Making America Great Again, Healthy Again movement, it really starts with what we put in our pantry, what we put in our mouth, what we put in our grocery bin when we go shopping. So, that's my feelings on it, but highly
that
concerned
path
about
that
all
we
of it.
talk about, it literally does start when we go shopping in the shopping cart, and then what we put in our refrigerator and what we put on the kitchen table at night or in the morning. It's remarkable. I want to talk about, to stay on this for a second long with dyes, because a long time ago, the cosmetics industry got dyes out of cosmetics because they knew that it was a carcinogen, but we continue to let people ingest it into our bloodstream as we were eating. How does that happen? How do we keep it off our skin, but then say, you could just keep eating it?
It's a really good question. I think it happens because we've allowed it to happen.
Yeah.
The food industry has allowed it to happen. The FDA has allowed it to happen. My sense and observation of a lot of this is, when it comes to health and food, we're an unconscious species. We haven't quite made that connection. And I think it's because these two big industries have been feeding this marketing material that is getting us in trouble. From my perspective, we have a food industry that knows nothing about health, and a health industry that knows nothing about food. And in the middle are consumers. We sit there, we watch commercials, we listen to them. It's telling us to eat these refined foods, and we're going to get sick. And when we get sick, we're going to hear another message, another commercial telling us to take a pill for the symptom that we're experiencing because of the food that we've been eating, right? So I think that unconsciousness is really the center of it, which is why bringing awareness and helping people, become more educated in this stuff, and really empowering and inspiring people to get on the path is really the solution to what we're going through right now.
Yeah, Native Path is in the forefront of helping create really great natural solutions. Clearly, collagen a big part of that. I've heard a lot more in the last decade or two concerns about bone density and the across people of all age groups, even young people not having the normal bone density. Certainly, as you get older, it eroding quicker. Tell us a little bit about how Native Path has some solutions to get that bone density back to a healthier spot.
And we really appreciate bone density and bone health in general. Again, as a physical therapist, I would see this all the time in my patients, especially over the age of 50, 60, 70. As we get older, bone health becomes directly in line with our lifespan, how long we live, right? And I would see it all the time. Someone would lose function, they would have a fall, they would have a fracture, and not long after that, they would pass away. This happened consistently. Like our health goes downhill once we can stop moving. And when it comes to bone health, like what to do about it, we're told, get your DEXA scan, that's all good and fun. But we're told, hey, take some medication to improve your bone strength, take some calcium, and really that's it. And that to me isn't the big picture, right? The big picture is, let's look at what bones are actually made of, right? Bones are made of things like collagen. It's important to have magnesium for bone strength, vitamin D for bone strength. weight-bearing exercise, which is often ignored and not really thought of, is extremely important for increasing the density of your bones. You know, if you went to outer space where there's no gravity at all and you came back, you can do a DEXA scan and you would be amazed at how low your bone density has gone down, right? So, but putting resistance on your bones, right? That hardens your bones. That's called Wolff's Law. It's a principle of the way our bones work, right? So just carrying dumbbells for a little bit or doing something heavy for like putting on a backpack can be helpful. But the actual material, right? The bones itself is made up of collagen. It's one of the easiest things you can do to improve bone strength. It's also one of the biggest reasons why people start using native path collagen is to improve the strength of their bones. And we recommend, you know, really getting after it, right? Taking 20 to 40 grams a day to really replenish our lost collagen storage. It's important to remember that in our modern diets, we're not getting near enough collagen in the way our great-great-grandparents did, right? They would have it as part of our natural diet when they would eat nose to tail. They would take the bones of the animal, they would make soups. In our modern world, where we're having red dyes and chemicals and refined and processed carbohydrates, we are not getting nearly enough. So most people are extremely deficient, and we produce collagen naturally, but it begins to decline. It begins to decline around the age of 20, 25. So the older we get, as we age, it becomes even more important that we supplement with collagen. So it's a big deal. And I'll also say when it comes to collagen, not all collagens are created equal, right? The source matters. The type matters, right? So we're real big on sourcing in terms of quality and the type. Your body, all the collagen in your body is made up of type 1 and type 3. Those are the most important types, and you want the collagen coming from a good source, from a cow that's eating grass, roaming fields, getting sunshine, drinking water, not from a cow, you know, let's say in China, on dirt, in a feedlot. All that impacts the quality of what you're getting.
Well, you've made this easy for us to get back on this path, and that's what's so fun about this partnership. Dr. Chad, I want to thanks for today's update. Folks, here's what you do to get on the path. It's real simple. Go to getnativepath.com/justnews. Getnativepath.com/justnews. There's incredible discounts. There's lots of great learning materials there. Tremendous products. That collagen product is a game changer for all of us who are dealing with bone density and weakening bones. Go check it out today. It's an incredible start on your journey to a healthier future. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back after these messages.
Welcome back, everybody, and a very happy early Mother's Day to all of the mothers out there, most importantly mine and my mother-in-law, but there are a lot of important mothers out there.
Too. Marcia, she's watching, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
$34 billion, that is what Americans are expected to spend on Mother's Day. The specific price tag per person is $259 on average. Whoa!
That's pretty impressive.
Well,
America loves its moms.
Yeah.
That's all I can say. That's
They're very
great.
important.
They are important. There's no doubt that my mom has been such an important guiding light in my life for so long. So,
yeah. But Americans
so
have the
grateful
money.
for her.
I think they're feeling a little bit more confident in their finances. I think
Yeah,
that's the deepest
shelling
story
out too.
there.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I'll tell you something I'm not feeling that confident about, and that is whether Congress will deliver on what it promised the American people. I think we could end up in July looking at a new name for Congress called Coward Grist. I am really afraid that they're not going to make the cut that Americans need. I'm hearing so much excuse making from lawmakers that used to talk tough, but now trying to tell me they can't get this or that. I was talking to someone today, like, I don't think we're going to get the Department of Education cut out of the budget. These guys ran, and they are gals, if they don't deliver, they are going to cement a generation of liberal in Washington because they will be known as the phonies who didn't deliver when they were given all the keys to the kingdom.
Yeah, man.
Not unlike 17 and 18, by the way.
And given so much wind in their sails with this past
Yeah,
election.
and President Trump's done his part. It's just Congress can't seem to back him up.
Absolutely. So
Coward
then they
grist.
lose their hats next year.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's what will happen.
And
If they double down, they don't. But if they whiff, they'll be known as the cowardly Congress, and they'll be in the minority, and President Trump will be impeached 10 times. So
yeah, and that is what the business of Congress will become.
I'm just hearing
Unfortunately.
so much excuse making. It made my stomach sick today.
Yeah. All right. Well, Ed Martin pulled and replaced with Judge Jeanine
Yeah, my
Pirro.
good friend.
Yeah.
Yes. Watch out, D.C. You don't know what you're in for yet.
I was just saying, I wonder if Trump's just going to keep appointing these Judge Jeanine Pirro type interims,
Get the
and
job
then
done.
at the end they're going to be begging for Ed Martin.
Yeah, listen, Ed Martin's got a good job because he's going to oversee the weaponization
Yeah.
department and the Justice Department. That is so important. Like that memo, we broke earlier this week, and all the other things that flowed from it. Ed Martin will do a good job there.
Yeah. All right, John, heading off into the weekend, what do you plan to do for Mother's Day?
Spend a little bit of time with my wife before she leaves on a trip, and then spend some time with my mom on the phone, and just be thankful that I have two amazing women in my life who keep me centered, and I'm just so blessed beyond my wildest imagination. How about
You're
you?
always telling me about comments that your mother says about the show and about you.
Watches all the time. She might notice my
raised
time. I
you to be
forget.
humble.
Yeah.
It sounds like.
I love it. I wouldn't know what to do without her.
She sounds like a wonderful, wonderful lady.
Your mom is too. 'Cause I've had the
Yeah,
pleasure of
happy
meeting her.
Mother's Day to my moms. And happy Mother's Day to all of you, the moms out there in our audience. We appreciate you being with us.